Hi there, Joel.
Hi, Gail. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks.
Hi, Matthew. Can't hear me.
It's frozen.
Karen.
Hi, Pelin. Not sure who's joined us from Satterbyte.
Hello.
Hi, Pelin.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
we can.
Okay, it's good. I didn't know that if it's working or not because I'm using my earphones, but it's good. Okay.
Hi,
Am I the
Sean.
host? Can you make me the co-host, Gail, please?
I will. Hang on a second. Oh, sorry. Gosh. I'm clicking all the wrong buttons. Sorry, Joel. There you go. You got it, Joel?
Yep, great.
And I'm going to go on to mute because my son's Zoom piano lesson has changed and it's on the same time as this call. So I'll leave it in your capable hands, Joel.
Yep, no problems. Okay. Hi, everyone. So I haven't put much effort into the look and feel of the PowerPoint, so excuse that. But hopefully I'll be able to get the message across. And in reality, it'll probably be mainly questions once I go through it all. I think there may be one or two people that were on the call with us. So what we're going to try and do today is just go through what the summary of the call was with the ODC. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I also have got my permit and gone through the license process and probably experienced everything that maybe some of these people on the call are going through in terms of frustration. So I can share my experiences and feel free to ask questions. If you wouldn't mind just raising your hand so we're not having people talking over each other, that'd be great. Or just flicking me a comment. I'll probably see it ping up in my Zoom. And I will try and summarize how it went with Abby and Danielle. Just to sort of give you some context, I'm a bit jaded, and I'm sure all of you are, about working with the ODC. It's a tough experience. I represent you guys, so I'm probably just going to give you the truth. And I know you're business owners, so you'd probably rather have the reality rather than some sort of fantasy land. So the reality is, I think it's going to get worse before it's going to get better. That's the reality. Just because whenever the government changes something, it costs time and confusion and complexity. However, I think on the other side, it will get better. So I do agree that what their changes they're making are going to be much, much better. But, if you've ever worked with the ODC and they try and change something or do something, it's another 6 weeks, right? So in this case, they're changing a huge amount. They're changing every single permit holder's moving to a new system and every single license holder is moving to a new system. So you can imagine the administration and paperwork they have to do on that, and then wrapping their heads around actually continuing to operate at the same time. I just don't think that's going to be a good experience. So I don't want to give you guys hope that this is going to accelerate things, because I actually think it's going to slow things down in the short term. But once you get along to the new license process, it will be better when you want to do things under that process. I can say, holding my permit, it is a better experience being a permit holder than it is a license holder. Not going to lie, you've just got a much quicker communication time, and you've got the same person you talk to. Not always the same person, but relatively it's the same kind of group of people that you talk to, and you can escalate to the same person. So that just gives you some context of my experience and what I think is going to happen. It may not work out that way. It may not work out that way. So please don't hold me accountable. And if it goes better, then you guys will all be happy. But I'm just trying to give you the reality of the situation. Can everyone go on mute? We've got some... someone's making a cup of tea. So Can you put it on mute there?
Yeah, everyone's on mute now, Joel.
Okay, great. So the other thing is that the new person in there is Avi Ribera. He doesn't come from the Office of Drug Control. He comes from the TGA. So he's still learning the ropes. It's not, everyone's not on mute because I can hear music.
I can tell you that that is not my son's piano lesson. I'm on mute, well and truly.
Okay. If you're on mute, you couldn't be able to talk though, could you?
No, I just took it off to talk to you.
So, okay, cool. So Avi's just started. Danielle's been in the role for a period of time. So she's probably the most one with the most amount of intellectual property of what's going to happen. Essentially, everyone's moving across to a single license. So what that means, if you have a cultivation license, you'll essentially be on the same license as a cultivation, a manufacture, and a research license. If you have a research license, you'll move on to the same single license platform and you won't have to apply for your license. Because if you think about what's happening with a license, and this makes a lot of sense, they're only assessing you on the site, right? They're mainly interested in the security, your protocols, your SOPs and background checks on everyone that works there or is the owner of that business. So ultimately, this is a better decision and going to be much smoother. So, but from there, you'll then have to apply for permits to move into different other areas. But ultimately, you'll have a license to do anything you want around medical cannabis, which is quite cool. And the other thing is they'll be perpetual. So you'll still pay an annual fee. Don't worry about that. But they will continue to operate unless you break the rules, I suppose. And then the other cool thing is that the way they're going to monitor this, and I'll talk about this in a bit more detail, is that you'll just have to manage your high THC and low THC. And how they're defining that is basically on the hemp rules in New South Wales is 1% THC, above 1% THC is considered high THC, below 1% THC is considered low THC, even though we all know that this should just be recreational. But anyway, next one. So this is the slide they put up here. If anyone has any questions on this one, let me know. But it's going to a single license. So we'll all move on to the same single site. If you have a different site, then you will need to apply for a site license underneath the license itself. So then what will happen is it'll be a permit process to manage any change. So if you want to do manufacture on that site, you'll have to apply for a permit, but you won't have to go through all the security protocols again. You won't have to go through all the background research again. You'll just have to tell them what you're doing from a manufacturer perspective, and they'll just assess that based on, I'd say, some sort of SOPs and risk, and then also the amounts you're looking to do. And then that'll be the same with research as well. So you'll just be able to apply under the same site to do research. So in the case of something like research, I would assume that happens quickly because there's a minimal amount of risk for them. So they're going to be like, no problems. Whereas if you're going to manufacture, 20 tons of cannabis, they're probably going to want to dig into where that's going, who's managing it, who's on the site, where are you getting the cannabis from, all that sort of stuff. So expect, the larger change you make, the longer it'll take with the ODC. So this is a really cool one, particularly for someone like me who's into genetics. You won't have to manage all your strain names. So previously, if none of you have gone through this, it's an absolute freaking nightmare. You normally had to name all the strains that you're going to have in your environment, the number of plants you had, and then the cropping schedules for all those environments, even if you weren't taking them all the way through to flower. So in my case, putting them into tissue culture and storing them, it just causes a lot of headaches in terms of tracking. You'll now be able to just call them high THC and low THC, and you'll still need to maintain plant counts. And that will be both seed and cuttings. And then you'll also have to talk about total amount of cannabis. So they'll manage total amount of cannabis coming off the site. They will group supplier pathways. So as an example, you can say SASCAP B with your own brand as a supplier pathway. You can say sending to a manufacturer as a supplier pathway. They'll group those types of ones. So whether you're sort of wholesaling on an API or whether you're selling a final product, they'll sort of group those, and you'll have the license to do that supplier pathway. If you want to change a supplier pathway, then you're going to need to apply for a new one. This is actually very similar to the TGA, the way the TGA does something, where if you want to package goods, for example, you have a license to package goods. You don't need to keep going back every time you get a customer. You can keep packaging goods as long as they're within the same sort of pathway or the same license. So that's pretty cool. And then you'll have to do reporting. So I think this is one of the ones that is very unclear. And is also looking like it's going to be a manual process for everyone because they don't have a piece of technology that allows us to go in and fill in a form, which I think we've been advocating for, and I've been advocating for to the ODC. We've actually been going to Greg Hunt and to Templey as well to try and get this done. I feel like there should be a website where you can add a supplier, or you can find out who the supplier is. You can check on their credentials. You can check on their license to see if you can supply them, because the onus will be on the person selling or wholesaling or moving the product out of their facility to make sure the person they're giving it to is correctly licensed. If you do break the rules there, you will be in trouble. So they're going to measure everyone on the amount of dried flour equivalency. So they're going to sort of give you a range around moisture content, which is a bit silly, but they're going to do it. And they're going to say, this is how much dried flour capacity you have to extract or to sell or to do whatever with. So you'll have to figure out in your own internal systems to work to their metric, but it shouldn't be too hard for most people, I think. And then it'll be total number of plants. So this should be pretty easy if you're growing for flour or growing in a greenhouse or somewhere where you have a controlled environment. Once you start to get to outdoor, could be difficult, but they're going to kind of ask for it. So it may just be arranged. We haven't got any clarity on that one, but it will also include starting material like tissue culture, cuttings, and seeds. And remember, it'll be a maximum amount. So just put in a massive number if you're putting in a permit application. So therefore, you're not going to get in trouble. That would be my advice. And I think we probably all learned that from the process. Are there any questions while I've got the slide up?
Sorry.
Go, Sharon. Yeah.
Hi, Joel. Did they mention a time frame of how long it's going to take them to move the license holders across to the single license model if you've already got your separate licenses?
What would your guess to that answer be?
No.
Does the government commit to any timelines? No. So they have to do it by December the 20th, I think it is. They have to, because it's law. It's gone into law, right? So it's a 6-month period they have to enact it. So they're running around with their pants on fire at the moment, and they are going to initiate this thing come hell or high water. And that's why I'm saying to you guys, it's going to be a shit show, because they don't know what they're doing. And so they haven't committed to how long it's going to take for everyone to transition across, which is why I'm telling you that it's going to be longer periods of time before they sort things out. So in the time period you have between now and December, if you can get anything done, I would advise getting it done. But I know if you can't apply for your permit before then, I don't think they're not going to approve it before then, which is normally a 9-month process to get a permit from my experience.
Wow.
Then I don't know how long it's going to be from now on.
All right. Thanks, Joel.
Interesting.
So this is just some examples they sent out to everyone for how we're going to be measuring and reporting to the ODC for genetics and cultivation and production. So it doesn't look too onerous, but it'll be all manual, I think. So it'll be spreadsheets. We'll be pushing back and forth, which is clearly not ideal, but at the moment, that's the best that they've got for us. So if it turns out to be this would still be an improvement on what we have now. I can tell you that now, having gone through it. But I think an automated system would be much better, because I mean, to build a form with this would take them about, well, the government might take a long time, but a private company would take about 2 days, right? So hopefully they do that. And then from the manufacturer, these are the forms they sent to us as well. So how much you can do over the side of the permit, the amount of cannabis on period at one time, the total amount of cannabis, kilos, and then you're talking about THC and CBT and where it's going, and any other types of THC that they've got on the premises. And then this is what they're defining as the different types of supply pathways that I talked about before. So taking to a different premises, supplying to another person who is licensed to either contract manufacture a package or something like that. And then also to destroy, export, or even to a pharmacist or public hospital if you've got your own wholesale license. And that's pretty much it, guys. Is there any other questions? That's all we really got, and it went for an hour and a half, but there was a bit of information, but that was basically the summary of it. Andrew, can you speak?
Yeah, I can, Joel. Look, we're coming at this from a slightly different angle in that we, being mainly an importer of products and a holder of products, I mean, obviously, under all of the therapeutic goods regulations and the imports and all that sort of stuff, we can't wholesale anything. But one of the things that, we have been asked, for example, by a number of local manufacturers to actually hold their goods and store them and then potentially distribute them down the track. That's part of what we're doing with the imported goods, but we can't do that we can't do that with Australian goods given the current legislative framework. Yeah,
so you're talking about the sponsorship issue and the wholesaling issue as well, right? Aren't you who's the sponsor and all that sort of stuff, or are you talking about something?
There's that part of it, but moreover, one of the ways that we've come up with getting around it is, having our place certified as a GMP storage facility. And look, we have a state government manufacturing license, so we're allowed to do manufacturing as long as we get the TGA manufacturing license. But that process for us would be limited to storage and perhaps relabeling
or packaging.
The problem that I see at the moment is that the legislation and the way that the licenses and permits are being set up is they don't actually cover the storage and labeling part of the manufacturing process clearly. And so, and I've sent this information to them and said, where does an organisation like Novachem fit in? Because we're not cultivating, we're not physically manipulating and manufacturing goods. We're coming in right at the very end. But are we the sponsor if we take goods from, medicinal cannabis company, cultivator X? And where do we fit in? Because we seem to be left in absolute limbo land.
Yeah, so Andrew, I totally agree with you. So I had a conversation with the ODC and the TGA about this, and they gave me different answers. So no one knows who, like if you ask them for a definition of who the sponsor is in a scenario, Avi and the other person, I can't remember who it was from TGA, had a basically disagreement about who is the sponsor, because my discussion was, well, multiple people can be sponsors of a product, because you can give some product to someone to sell and someone else to sell as you're under your 4PL license, like they're acting on behalf of you. So you're still a sponsor.
But the problem is that the Therapeutic Goods Regulation, the Drugs and Narcotics Act restricts any wholesale supply of an unregistered therapeutic good. That's the problem that we have with medicinal cannabis.
But what's wholesale supply? I mean, that's basically any
supply, any business-to-business supply, which is not part of the direct manufacturing chain. That's a wholesale supply. And
even if you're doing it under contract, Andrew?
Even if you're doing it under contract, yes.
Yeah, well, that's silly. I mean, in all honesty, that would shut down the whole industry.
Agreed, it's silly, but I've been having this fight with the TGA about wholesale supply since 2017.
I understand. So Andrew, the only thing I can tell you is, and I know this is probably like block your ears, Mr. Regulatory person, just keep going, mate, because I've talked to them like a brick wall, and in reality, if we're going to keep going and dobbing on ourselves, then we're just going to hurt ourselves. So I just feel like I know you're going to sit there and say, well, what are we meant to do because we feel like we're breaking the law? But I mean,
Well, I
we've been
mean,
doing this for the last 4 years.
Well, we've been very. I mean, as I say, I've had this discussion with Darren at ODC and a variety of people there, and it's always been very much a case of you cannot do that supply. Period. End of story. You know, if we bring in an API product, we can provide that API
Also,
to another manufacturer. Okay,
Yeah.
I can do that, not a problem. But I can't give my API to a manufacturer and then receive it back, because, you know, if I wanted to convert a flour that I import from wherever into an oil, I can't physically do that because it's a deemed
you're not
supplier.
selling it to them. That's not a sale. Like the wholesaling, I thought
It doesn't matter. It's a deemed supply under the Drugs and Narcotics Act 1967. That's the problem. And we can't get around. I've been, as I say,
the whole pharmaceutical industry works like this. This is how the whole pharmaceutical
industry works. And you know what? They're all breaking the law, but no one's doing anything because we've got the TGA who's a toothless tiger. But let's not even go there.
But that's where I got to. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep going because it's pointless. And the other thing is, I've tried to talk to them about it. I've got it all documented. So when the shit hits the fan, I'll just say, look, I asked you this question. You didn't give me a good proper answer. I never got a response. So I continue doing it. But I think there's 50 people, maybe more, maybe 100 people out there doing the same thing across the cannabis space. And there would be other people in different industries as well. So it's a very weird situation that they're trying to actually sort of keep changing the rules on this when it wasn't broken to start with. So I don't get it.
It's just because it's an unregistered therapeutic good. That's the problem. And if they decided to actually define cannabis in its own little box and put it aside from, you know, heroin, because at the moment they're treated exactly the same, and they shouldn't be. And that's where we have such a problem.
So you're saying that I can't get my flour contract manufactured at a GMP contract manufacturer?
Correct. Because as soon as the contract manufacturer gives it back to you, it's a deemed supply because you're not.
I don't even get it back. I take it to a wholesale. I take it to a distributor. And they go and sell it.
Don't even go there.
Well, but it's happening everywhere.
Well, I know, and you know what? It is a problem. And
Tasmanian Alkaloids, Medifarm, these companies that are doing contract manufacture, they're all breaking the rules. Then, are they? Is that what you're saying?
No, because if you look at someone like Zulira, who actually have some of their therapeutic products done, you know, by a contract manufacturer, they've got their own manufacturing license, and as long as the contract manufacturing is done as a part of the manufacturing license of the initial holder, they can do that. But I'm in a different situation because I'm not a manufacturer.
Well, I have a manufacturing license and permit, so therefore maybe I'm okay. Is that what you're saying?
Well, maybe you're okay. That's correct.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
But I mean, I suppose it's the fact that, you know, this is why we're looking at going and getting a manufacturing license ourselves, even if it's only for a very small part of the chain, because then all the rest of the process we can do it, but it can be done under our license. But it's just very, very frustrating.
So that would mean all the clinics that are selling their own flour or contract manufactured flour are then breaking the rules too?
Well, it depends on how they're doing it, because if they're doing it as a third-party service, you know, we know the wonderful people up in Brisbane are doing this. So they'll actually take a wholesale, but it's a third-party service that they're providing. They're actually not the sponsor of the goods. If they were the sponsor of the goods, then yes, there'd be a problem.
Yeah, no, they're not the sponsor. I work with those guys, but there's other people that basically bring in non-GMP stuff, package it GMP, and then sell it under their own brand.
Oh, I'm aware.
Yeah, and I don't think the ones you're thinking about are the worst.
I know they're not. I know they're not.
There's a lot more out there. Any other questions?
Yeah, sorry.
It's all right. We could go on forever, Andrew. I think
we could, but let's yeah. Anyway,
there was one other one. Just you, Gail, go for it.
Sorry, Joel, I was just going to say, do you think your better experience with permits was because the ODC and MCS seemed to make a concerted move from licenses to focusing on permits for the last few months. So do you think that's just an aberration, that you got a good deal because they've been focusing on permits, or is it just because you're a sweet talker?
No. It's because there's no more. They can be a lot more transparent with me because I'm already in past the status of like background checks and production schedules and everything. They've given me the right license to grow cannabis. So what can I really do now? Like what laws can I really break? Because I've already got the permit, and so I've got a capacity on how much I can do. I've got production schedules. I've got all my security cameras in there. What can really go wrong other than me breaking it on purpose? So, which they probably think I'm not going to do. So, and the likelihood of me getting a breach or anything is also very low. I mean, we've got security coming out our wazoo, which is ridiculous. So, I just think it's more a level of where they say, well, you're in the circle now, and we're going to give you a better service. And also, I think that they assume, and maybe it's incorrectly, because I know how hard it is to have your license and not be operating. It's because we're operating. So they're saying you're an operating business now, and you have a license. I mean, a permitted site that's costing you money. We need to keep you moving. Now, I would argue that the 9 months I waited for my license, I had no revenue coming in, and my site was available then too. But unfortunately, the government doesn't always look at things logically. Yeah.
I'll just add quickly a couple of things. The first is that, we had a meeting with Avi and I was very impressed. I think he is going to help things along. He said that he had put KPIs in place already for Danielle and her team. So, I think he's very aware of the pain. And I asked for examples of people who were having real issues with delays and just trouble, lengthy trouble and delays with everything, with the whole process. And I actually read 4 examples to him, and he did seem to listen and really understand the pain. And Danielle was on the call as well. So I didn't hold anything back. I just said, this is really unacceptable. This is supposed to be a young, flourishing new industry, and it's being held back. So I did feel that he was going to come in and really shake it a bit.
I think the thing that frustrates me the most is not only this sort of delays and process is like, and I know this may not be music to some people on this call, but it's like you can import a lot easier than you can doing domestic production, because you don't have to worry about any of the ODC permits outside of the export and import one, and making sure you're compliant to TGO 93, of which is a self-declaration. So, I mean, it's pretty unfair on people like myself or Sharon or other people on this call who are operating in Australia, trying to get up and running with all these delays with the government, but also the security requirements that we have to go through, and the GMP requirements we have to go through are just extremely onerous and costly. Yet you can import stuff from another country without any of that. So that's the thing that I find a bit depressing. And I just want it to be a level playing field. That's really all I want. I don't really want to stop imports. I just want to say we should all be on the same standards.
And Joel, that was only supposed to be an interim measure that the government did to try and make the product more accessible to patients, but that's long gone now.
Well, they're going to make it GMP. They're just mucking around, and I'm not sure what they're doing.
Yeah. So I'm not sure whether when I popped out, if you missed the date, but this whole single license thing is supposed to be effective 24th of December. Did you mention that, Joel?
Yeah, I think I said the 20th of December, but yeah, it's 24th of December it will be implemented, because as I said before, they have to. So they'll just implement it even if it's not ready, ultimately. So just prepare for, administration mistakes. They're under-resourced. There's a lot of people in there that are new, that don't really know what they're doing. So it's just the reality, I think, guys. Sorry.
And I'd say that, AMCA is here to help you. So if any of you are having real issues, which you will be, please don't hesitate to write to us and let us know your problem, because we have no problem at all in writing about issues that we can de-identify We can identify you if you wish, just to support you, or we can de-identify you. And we are having regular calls from now on with Avi, and I have no problems. We have no problems in continually pushing at them.
I think the other advice I would give you guys is, like, I think it's okay to go a little hard with Danielle and Avi. I think it's okay to go, you know, complain to them, but I think just be cognizant of, like, the people below. They're just doing their job, and it's probably a pretty tough job with the under-resourcing they've got there and the complexities around all this and what they've been forced into in terms of administration and paperwork. I do feel for them sometimes, and even though it's very frustrating, you're just better off not getting angry with them, because they'll just switch off and not help you as much as what they probably should, and will put you to the bottom of the queue. And I know it can be hard, and I've lost my call with them before, but try your best.
Yeah. It's kind of the squeaky wheel gets the attention, but you need to do it in a way that's asking for help rather than yelling.
There's been a lot of people yell at them, and they've talked to me about that. And those people have not normally ended up doing better out of it.
Yeah.
They've usually got more and more dragged out through lawyers and all this other stuff that's cost them more time.
Yeah.
And money. All right. Any other questions? Otherwise, we call it off.
No, thank you for your time, Joel. It's as you say, because we're not a manufacturer, we didn't get into this, so it's good to actually see what actually was said. And as I say, I still think there are a lot of questions that are going unanswered, but push on.
Cool.
Hey, thanks a lot, Joel. I did have one question. You know, so when you call ODC, you know, you get the option to press buttons, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on what your question is. And at the moment, you know, option number 4 just doesn't pick up the phone for me.
Yeah, 2.
And
I use 2.
yeah, okay, okay. That was my question. So I was going to ask how flexible are the staff in the different boxes there under the different categories. I suppose I'll give it a crack.
Manufacturer is the best by far.
Okay.
So if you want a manufacturing license, that's the quickest one to get. They're the most responsive. They get stuff done quickly. I mean, it's very easy for them because they don't. It's just amount of kilos of extract. You just have to tell them where it's coming from, and it's quite easy. So, you know, Andrew, that probably gives you a bit of hope. But the manufacturer permit came through like real quick. And even when we make changes on the manufacturer permit and ask for responses, it comes back in like 2 days. The cultivation one, that's the worst one by far.
Yeah.
And then the research one, not very, that's pretty easy too. But I think, unfortunately, if you've got both that are tied together, then one ends up costing you the other. In my experience, the cultivation one just slowed down the manufacturer one because they wanted to wait till the cultivation permit got approved and they had the inspection. So, but if you can get a manufacturer permit through inspection and then use that for your cultivation permit, that would be the quickest approach by far, because I think the manufacturer people are a lot more switched on.
Okay. Thank you for that. And
then the other advice I'd give you is if you can befriend someone there, which is what we've kind of done. We've kind of got someone that we just go, hey, we're confused about this. Can you answer it? And we have their own email address, and they tend to respond to us. That once you're in the circle with that, it's a better outcome, right?
All right. That sounds good advice. Yeah, and so we're sort of stuck at an audit. Was there any discussion on how they're managing audits at the moment?
Yeah, unfortunately, there has to be a physical inspection for your license now, so that will have to happen.
Yeah,
they're not giving us any information about that. Once you've got your permit, if you change something on the site, they're going to allow desktop audits, but you have to send out a SCEC, like a SCEC security consultant, to perform a report and sign it off, and then take a lot of photos. And they give you a sheet. I don't know if anyone's had this on the phone, but they give you a sheet to say, this is how you take photos. These are all the things you need to send us. And then they'll do a desktop audit of your site if you're changing something. Okay. But for that initial license, they have to go out and do an inspection. It's very similar to the TGA doing a GMP inspection. They have to go out there and see it. So unfortunately, in the middle of COVID right now, that is not a possibility. So again, I don't have a good response for you.
Okay. No, thanks.
I found that the actual inspection people were the best. They were quick. We booked our inspection. They were out there in a week, and then we waited 6 months for our permit to come after the inspection was occurred. So if you get an inspection, don't get your hopes up that the permit will come through, because that's not what happened to us.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Thanks very much, guys. Hope that was informative. Let me know if there's any questions. Feel free to ask me or Gay. I'm around.
Thank you
Thanks
very
very much,
much, Joel.
No worries.
Thanks, Joel.
All right.
Thank you, Joel and Gail.
Bye,
Thank
Sharon.
you. See you
ya.
guys.
You both. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Gail. Bye.